Moody's is holding that Sub-Saharan conference. Nompumelelo Siziba is there standing by to give us more of an update on what's taken place so far. Good afternoon, Nompumelelo. What's Moody's saying about the U.S. higher interest rate environment as well as its effect on emerging markets?
Thanks very much, Nzinga. Yes, well, what Moody's is saying is that obviously the higher interest rate trajectory in the United States is negative for emerging markets. And that's simply because what happens is that when investors believe that they'll get a better return in a developed market where they perceive there to be less risk, then they decide to take their money there to get better yield there. And that has begun to happen. As far back as 2013, there was this thing called the taper tantrum, pardon me, where it was announced by the US Fed that they were going to begin to ease up quantitative easing. And then the immediate reaction was a massive sell-off of emerging market currencies. So that just gives you a sign, because people realized that there was going to be more value in the developed market. But now, fast forward to 2018, it's not just the US interest rates that have been a threat to emerging market currencies. It's been other stories. What's been happening in Turkey, problems there around confidence there around the central bank's independence, Argentina going through an economic meltdown and having to ask the IMF for a handout earlier than expected. And unfortunately, when these emerging market currencies, emerging market nations have problems, because we are put into a basket of currencies called emerging market currencies, what happens is that investors just sell all of them off, and then we get affected as a result. Of course, we have our own idiosyncratic issues here in South Africa, which makes us less attractive to invest in. People complain about policy uncertainty. Moody's is quite positive, however. They do say that we do have to sharpen issues around policy, like, for example, the land debate that's going on. They say that they actually understand the goal, which is to improve land distribution, which could actually end up being quite positive for the country. It will mean more people having more access to land and being productive with it, and better fortunes for the economy, which, as we know, is currently in a recessionary environment. So they're saying that the communication needs to be clearer, and as we know, they just had a meeting or discussion with the finance minister now over Skype, asking him pointed questions about what it is that government is to try and address some of the gaps that the government has. And he was trying to the best of his ability to answer those, talking about how all government departments are on the same page in terms of cutting costs and all of those kinds of things. But of course, come October the 24th, everyone will be, all eyes will be on the midterm budget when he delivers that, to see the maths. How is government going to manage in an environment where we have a recession? They're taking lesser revenue because people are not as profitable and people are not making as much money. People are losing jobs left and right and center, so the income tax take is not as high as it should be, or one would want it to be. So there are a lot of pressures. The priorities are still there. We still have to pay social grants. We still need to invest in infrastructure spending. We still need to invest in health and education. The government wants to introduce NHI, which is going to cost an absolute fortune. On the other hand, we've got the talk of a fiscal stimulus, which could cost about 43 billion rand. Where are we going to get the money from? So I think they just want clarity on all of these issues, but they're generally quite positive. They're the only key rating agency that still has us at investment grade level, which is very positive. So we need to sing the right songs to organizations like Moody's, because if they decide to downgrade us, then we'll be in really big trouble, because a lot of investors will decide to withdraw their investment out of our government bonds, and to the tune of about 130 billion rand. That will mean higher inflation, higher interest rates, very negative for our economy, of course. I'm going to leave it there.
Nompumelelo Siziba coming to us live from that Moody's conference and giving us a wrap of what's taken place so far and the issues at play. Let's go to Durban now, where the ITU Telecom World Conference has just concluded. One of the burning issues at that conference was the pending rollout of the 5th generation of mobile technology, that's 5G. The other issue that received quite a lot of attention was the pace at which internet access across Africa can be picked up. Let's cross to our reporter Mbalenhle Mtetwa for an update.